Okay, so in part one, we went over how this whole project came about, and now we're going into some detail on how you create that PDF template. So there's really just two steps. One, you have to build that feeder Excel file that you're going to be using, and two, you have to build your template Tableau workbook. So that feeder Excel file, it should be a single Excel workbook, but it can have as many tabs as you want because it should contain all of the data that's going to change in your report. That includes your title, that includes your legend, and that includes the data that's going to be feeding your tables and graphs. Then that second piece is building your template Tableau workbook. There's two key points to this. The first is every single thing that you want to be automated, that you want to update with each new report, needs to be its own sheet. That includes your title, that includes your legend, that includes anything that's going to be changing, and of course that includes your tables and your graphs. That second key point is that every sheet of your PDF that you want should be its own dashboard, and it should be letter portrait size. Then you're going to use all of your sheets that you've built to build your PDF size dashboard, align things as you would want in your PDF, and then you're going to be able to print. So let's look at some examples. My simplest example is my title page. It's my simplest example because it only has 4 objects on the page. So let's look at those objects. There are 2 types of objects. There are objects that do not change with the underlying data. These are going to be our static objects, and I have them in green. This is going to include my pay scale logo, which I don't want to change report to report. I always want that there. And it's going to include my pay scale alumni analytics title because I'm going to want that on every report as well. Therefore, these can just be your standard static image and your standard static text. These other 2 objects on the page, however, I do want those to change with each PDF report. So I'm going to need them to each have their own sheet in my workbook. So my Graph Giraffe University own sheet, because as I change it to a different university, that's going to update. We have our dashboard here, size letter portrait. This is really super easy in this dashboard size box down here because it's already predefined for you. All you have to do is drop down and select that option. So how do we actually make that title text? This is very, very simple. As I was saying earlier, I have this feeder Excel file, and that is going to have my titles and my legends and all of the data that's going to be text data in there as well. So in my feeder Excel file, I have this school name, Graph Giraffe University, that is going to be my string for my title. I normally keep all of my string variables that I'm going to be using in this first tab in my Excel feeder file because I'm going to be using them repeatedly throughout my PDF, especially the school name and the date of the report and the abbreviated school name. So I have this Excel data source connected to my workbook, and all I have to do is take my school name from over here, drag it, drop it on my text box, and voila, I'm going to have my school name in my sheet. Now, of course, there was some formatting done to this, so if you just click on that text, you can open up the text window and format that title however you like. Similarly, for that date of report on my main title page, I'm going to need this sheet. So I'm going to make a new sheet from the same stats file. I'm going to drag date of report over to my text. My date of report is then going to be my sheet. I'm going to take those 2 sheets, I'm going to add them to my dashboard, position them how I want, and once everything is aligned as I like it, I'm going to file, print to PDF, press OK, and I'm going to end up with a PDF of my title sheet that as I update that underlying data is going to update that title for me. Let's look at another example. So this one is my executive summary. This is the page that everyone goes, "You built that completely in Tableau and it's automated?" I say yes. It is just like that title page. It also only has 4 objects. One of them is just a little bit more complicated. So let's take a look. Again, we have two static objects that aren't going to be changing with the underlying data on this page. We have our pay scale logo up here, which is just an image, and we have our executive summary title, which is just a text field. Those things can be static because they're going to be the same with every report that I could produce. However, this Graph Giraffe University header, obviously that's going to need to change as I update to a new school, so that's going to need its own sheet down here. That's going to be built in the exact same way as my title and my date of report. It's just going to be a new sheet. I'm going to drag that school name onto that sheet, and I'm going to format it as I want. The beauty of this header is that that's my header sheet, and I'm going to use that specific sheet in every dashboard of my PDF. I can reuse it as many times as I want. I can't reuse it multiple times on the same dashboard, but I can use it multiple times throughout my report. So that's the only header I need. Then we have this big blob, which is the slightly more complicated part, but just as simple. Before we go and look at that, remember our dashboard is letter portrait size so that it prints perfectly to a PDF. So let's look at how we make that blob. It's exactly the same as the title, except for we're pulling in more dimensions and measures. In this Feeder Excel file tab, again, my first one, I have all of my string variables in there. So I have my abbreviated school name. I have my start date as a string. I have my end date as a string, and even more things in there that I'm going to use as well. So because this data source is connected, I have them all over here. Any variable I want to use in my blog, in my blurb, I'm going to drag that variable onto the text, and I'm just going to drag all of them on, and then when I click that text field to edit it, I can use those variables and those dimensions and measures in creating this blurb. So right now it says school name variable and pay scale partnered to survey abbreviated school name alumni. For this report, it's going to say Graph Giraffe University and pay scale partnered to survey GGU alumni. But as I update that underlying data, that text is actually going to change. A great question was asked during my presentation at the Seattle Tableau user group yesterday. Isn't there a limit to the number of characters you can have in these labels? The answer is yes. However, if you build them in Word and then just copy and paste them over, you can get around that. Once you have those 4 objects laid out on your dashboard as you like, in the same way as the first one, you can file, print to PDF, and you have a beautiful dashboard that's going to update with that underlying data file. Let's look at one more example. Of course, we're going to want graphs. So we're going to need an example with graphs on here. That's one of the main reasons we're using Tableau. So let's take a deeper look at this. It's obviously got more things on the page, but it is going to be built in the exact same way. You're just going to have more dynamic objects and you're going to have more static objects. On this top half of the page, we have 5 purple boxes, meaning we have 5 dynamic objects that we're going to want to change with the underlying data. So each of these are going to need their own sheet. Again, this header up here, I'm just reusing that header sheet that I already built. So that one I don't need to make a new sheet for, but this GGU alumni legend, I do, because this is going to be a different format. So I'm going to need to build a new sheet for that, drag over that abbreviated school name, format as I like, and put that sheet on the dashboard. Then I have my graph and my table that I'm going to obviously need my own sheets for. And then I have my table header here, which says GGU alumni in it. So I'm going to want that to update with my underlying data as well. So that's going to need its own sheet. Now there's no limit to how many things you can automate. Currently on here, if you see this US workers, that is currently a static object. It's just a text file, text object from over here. But we are talking about doing cohort analysis where schools can actually just compare themselves to a subset of schools. So we're actually in the process of making that a dynamic field as well. And so that's going to need its own sheet. So it'll update with whatever cohort we have in our underlying data. Just like the first 2 dashboards, this is going to be sized letter portrait. So it's really super easy to fit it into that PDF. Once we have all of our objects, again, there are more of them now, but it's exactly the same. Once we have all those sheets and our static objects on our dashboard as we like. We can file, print to PDF, and we have a beautiful job level page. Now, we don't have to print to PDF each individual dashboard as we're going to be replacing our underlying data file. Because when I get that new school into the program, I'm going to build them their university specific feeder file. When I overwrite my feeder file that's feeding into this template, I'm not going to want to open it up and file print to PDF each dashboard. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to select all of my dashboards that I want in my PDF. I'm going to file print to PDF, and I'm going to choose selected sheets. This is going to print you a PDF that has all of those dashboards together in one document. The other option, which I do, is I just hide all of my sheets by right-clicking on them and hiding them. So only my dashboards are showing. Therefore, once I overwrite my underlying data file, all I have to do is open up my Tableau template workbook, file, print to PDF, entire workbook, and in one click, I have a 54-page document that is university specific. A little bit about the success of this report. It has gotten amazing feedback from universities because not only can the universities gather insight from this PDF, but they can also share it with their alumni, which a couple of universities have made it publicly available. Alumni Analytics is now an official pay scale offering, which is very exciting. It's no longer in its pilot project stage, and report creation time has been reduced from 3 weeks to 2 days. Now, you might be asking, why 2 days? You just said you could do it in one click. The actual creation of the report I can do in one click. However, I still have to do the data analysis and actually get that university-specific Excel file built. I have that mostly automated at this point, but it still does require a little bit of hands-on work. Then, once I replace that underlying data file, and I print a PDF, I'm still going to review my PDF for that school before I send it to them. So I'm still going to go through it, and because I made a copy of my Tableau workbook and extracted the data for that specific university, I can make some tweaks to it. So if there needs to be some changes made for that specific school, I can do that as well. There are talks of expanding this product, which is very exciting, into different areas of our business because of how successful it's been. And one of the most exciting parts of it is it can be made interactive really easily. If I want to add some filters to these dashboards, all I have to do is throw them on there, and if a school is willing to download Reader, or anyone who wants to interact with this data has Reader or Tableau desktop, I can export it as a Tableau packaged workbook, jumping over my words here, and then they can open it up with Reader or desktop and they can interact with it. My last point that I want to make is between data discovery and storytelling. I love Tableau and always have because of the data discovery aspect. I am a data analyst, so I need that piece of it. And the interactive visualizations are key for that as I'm doing my analysis. But I found that this Tableau PDF report creation has been a really great tool for me if I just want to tell a story. If someone isn't looking to do self-diving into data and doesn't want to mess with it, but just wants the numbers in front of their face, Tableau is my tool of choice to do the analysis. It's my tool of choice to present the analysis, and by being able to format my dashboards as PDFs and just print my analysis really quickly to show it to someone and get it in front of their face, it's been a really amazing tool. Another question that I got at the Tableau user group yesterday was, do you use storyboards and what makes this better? Again, it's a distribution problem. With storyboards, which I do love and use, the person who is going to be opening that needs a tool that can read it. Tableau Reader, Tableau Desktop. And a lot of people aren't going to have that installed on their computer. So by making it a PDF, it's emailable, it's very easy, and anyone can open it, and you can get that data in front of their face. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to my presentation. Feel free to contact me with questions. You can tweet me at GB_GraphGiraffe, or you can contact me via my blog, graphdraft.net, and I am happy to help in any way I can. Thanks again for listening.